There are places where the earth keeps secrets. Roads that remember, cliffs that whisper. Darkness that waits. Scotland, 1600. A merchant kissed his wife goodbye, promised to return by nightfall. His horse came back. He did not. His family waited. Days became weeks. Weeks became forever. Not one, not 10, hundreds. No bodies, no blood, no answers. Until they found the cave. And a family that fed on darkness itself. This is their story, and it is real. The western coast of Scotland in the early 17th century was a land shaped by wind, stone, and silence. Between the fishing villages of Ballantrae and Girvan stretched a narrow coastal road. A lonely path carved between jagged cliffs and restless sea. Traders used it, pilgrims trusted it, families crossed it for generations without fear. Until people began to disappear. At first, the vanishings were dismissed as accidents. A merchant failed to reach the next village. A fisherman never returned from market. A traveler simply vanished into the night. Then came another, and another. By the winter of 1600, whispers replaced certainty. Villagers began counting their loved ones twice before sunset. Mothers barred their doors earlier each evening. Fathers carried rusted swords long forgotten. The disappearances followed no predictable pattern, or so it seemed. But fear spread faster than truth. Some blamed highway robbers. Others believed wolves had grown bold. A few, speaking only, in hushed voices, claimed darker forces stalked the coastal road. Authorities attempted investigations, yet each search revealed nothing. No bodies, no witnesses, no clues, only abandoned roads and silence. As months became years, travelers altered their routes, trade slowed, inns refused shelter to those traveling alone. But the vanishings did not stop. They multiplied. By the time the first decade passed, more than 40 travelers had vanished along the same 15-mile stretch of coastline. The road itself began earning a name whispered in taverns and marketplaces. The road that eats men. Yet even in terror, curiosity remained. Some villagers insisted someone must be responsible. Others believed the land itself had turned cursed. Among those questioning the mystery was a blacksmith named William Kerr, a man known for his stubborn refusal to accept superstition as explanation. William had lost his younger brother, Andrew, who vanished returning from Girvan. Unlike others who surrendered to grief, William searched relentlessly. He spoke with merchants, interviewed shepherds, studied disappearance locations, and slowly, patterns began forming. Every disappearance occurred within the same stretch of road. Every victim had traveled near. The cliffs overlooking Benane Head, William shared his findings with local authorities. They dismissed him. Storms take men. Thieves roam the countryside, officials insisted. But William refused to abandon the truth. Then, 3 winters later, someone survived. It was the autumn of 1639 when a married couple rode home along the Kirst, rode beneath a pale harvest moon. They had attended a local fair and delayed their journey longer than planned. Darkness swallowed the coastline as they rode, but they believed themselves safe. The husband, Donald McAllister, carried a sword. His wife rode close beside him. Halfway through the cliff road, their horses suddenly froze. Animals often sense danger before humans do. Donald barely had time to draw his blade before figures emerged from the darkness. They came from the rocks, from the tall grass, from shadows shaped like men. There were many. Donald fought desperately. The attackers moved with disturbing coordination. Fast, silent, animalistic. His wife screamed as hands dragged her from her horse. Donald believed death had come. Then, from the distance, torchlight appeared. A caravan of travelers returning from the fair approached along the road. The attackers hesitated and vanished. They fled into the cliffs as though swallowed by stone. Donald and his wife survived, though both were severely wounded. Their testimony would become the turning point in one of Scotland's darkest investigations. Donald described his attackers as neither ordinary bandits nor desperate thieves. They hunted, he whispered during his testimony. Like creatures that knew the road belonged to them. Authorities finally took notice. Magistrates compared Donald's account with years of disappearance records. For the first time, investigators searched the cliffs directly rather than the roads above them. At the same time, villagers began recalling strange discoveries long ignored. Fragments of clothing washing ashore. Bones discovered near tide pools. Items belonging to missing travelers found floating at sea. Pieces of evidence dismissed as shipwreck debris suddenly formed a horrifying possibility. A coordinated search began, and word reached the royal court of King James VI. The king ordered a massive investigation. Hundreds of soldiers, trackers, and bloodhounds marched toward Ayrshire's haunted coastline. For days, they searched the cliffs without success. Then, on the 5th day, a bloodhound caught a scent. The animal dragged its handler toward an almost invisible opening hidden behind jagged rock formations. A cave entrance concealed by tides and shadows. Torches were lit. Soldiers entered cautiously. The tunnel stretched deeper than expected, twisting, descending, growing colder with every step. Then came the smell, decay, rot, and something far older, the scent of long-term death. The tunnel opened into a cavernous chamber. Inside lay proof of unimaginable horror. Hundreds of belongings littered the stone floor: boots, jewelry, cloaks, bags, coins, items collected across decades. Further within the cavern, soldiers discovered bones carefully arranged along stone walls. Evidence suggested the cave had been inhabited for years. Then movement stirred in the darkness. Dozens of figures emerged: men, women, children. 48 individuals stood silently beneath torchlight, wild-eyed, ragged, and strangely calm. The soldiers surrounded them. When questioned, their leader stepped forward without fear. "My name," he said evenly, "is Alexander Bean." The name would become legend. Alexander Bean, later known as Sawney Bean, had vanished from society decades earlier with a woman named Agnes Douglas. Historical accounts suggest both came from extreme poverty and lived outside social acceptance. Rather than returning to civilization, they settled within the Galloway Cave system. At first, they survived by theft. Isolation, however, transformed survival into brutality. The couple raised children within the cave. Those children later had children of their own. Generations grew knowing only darkness, hunger, and predation. Sawney confessed with chilling calmness that travelers became their primary source of survival. They studied road patterns, chose victims carefully, attacked only when success was certain. Authorities later recorded that the family committed these acts for over 25 years. Their crimes were not random. They were systematic. Captured and chained, the entire family was transported to Edinburgh. Crowds gathered along roads to witness the beings who had haunted Scottish folklore for decades. The trial shocked the kingdom. Though historical accounts vary, records suggest overwhelming evidence ensured swift judgment. The scale of the crimes stunned even hardened officials. For families of the missing, justice offered closure long denied. The Bean family faced execution without extended proceedings. The cave was sealed permanently, marked forbidden ground. Trade resumed along the coastal road. Villages slowly returned to peace. Yet historians continue debating the story's authenticity. Some believe details were exaggerated by folklore. Others argue the consistency of records suggests truth behind the legend. Regardless of exaggeration or fact, the story endures as a chilling reflection of human transformation under extreme isolation and desperation. Because sometimes, the greatest monsters are not born. They are created. And the cliffs of Ayrshire still stand, watching the sea. Silent witnesses to a darkness that once called the cave its home.